Hi, I'm Tom Chick. I'm here with Bruce Garrick to illustrate an important principle. Garrick, can you help me explain to the viewers something here?
Mm-hmm.
See that little creek in front of us?
Creek, yes.
Yep. I want you to hop on the other side of it. Don't go. Careful not to get your shoes wet. Those are nice shoes.
Oh. Okay, let's see here. So I have to cross this little body of water, huh?
Right.
Okay. Well, I think we'll probably just start doing that by well, I'll just see how we can just
jump. Very good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, now come over and face me, so where we're facing off across this river.
Okay.
Or,
right,
excuse me,
wait,
creek. I called it a river.
Oh yeah, it's really not a river. It's not a creek either. It's a creek. Cricks you get in your neck. Okay, here we go.
Okay, now a little closer. Go ahead and get your toes right up against the water, just so I can illustrate the principle. I'm wearing flip-flops, so it doesn't. There you go. Okay, good. Now I want you to punch me. Click like the left mouse button. Just punch me. All right. So that didn't. What was the column shift on the CRT when you did that?
Oh my goodness! Yeah, well, it depends. You know, if you're, it might be a die roll modifier. It might actually be an odds shift.
No, it's a column shift. It should be like at least a one-column shift, right? Like that's.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's pretty old school on the CRT.
Yeah. Now some folks would think CRT stands for cathode ray tube. You and I, we have a slightly different frame of reference. What does CRT stand for, and why do we think that?
Well, it's called a combat results table.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that in war games you use to determine the result of the combat between your military units.
Such as you punching me across a river.
Well, if we're military units, sure.
Yeah. What's the deal with war games? Because I feel like they're boring these days. I don't play them anymore. You're still into war games. What's up with that? It's all boring. It's history stuff.
Yeah.
Why do you still play war games?
I mean, I agree that it's probably not as exciting as Real Housewives of New Jersey, but
whoa! No need to go there. I was just thinking more like World of Warcraft, for instance.
Right. Things that well. I mean, I think that one of the things we know about history is we know more about history than we know about the World of Warcraft, because I think they keep changing the World of Warcraft, right?
Yeah.
Like wizards, like have one thing and then they have another because they find out that it wasn't really what they thought it was. But no, I mean, I really like history. History is one of my favorite things in the world, and I think that, well, first of all, I just enjoy interacting with history by playing games about it. But I really think that you can understand more about history by playing a really good game. Now that's not the reason that I play games, but I think that overlook when you talk about war games, and they're not just, I know that people think it's just these, really sort of tedious counter shuffling exercises, but I beg to differ.
So then I have a question for you, because I also love playing games about history, but I think a lot of the games about history that I play, you snooty wargamer types would say, that's not a war game, that's a strategy game.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a war game and a strategy game?
Let's
just, by the way, while we're discussing this, let's just walk down this river and see where it takes us. I'm guessing it will take us to the ocean eventually.
Oh, perfect. All right, so we just get in the middle of it or something?
I don't want to get my flip-flops any wetter than I have to.
Oh my God, that's why you're wearing flip-flops.
Oh my gosh, look at what GTA does. Our pant legs are wet. Look at that. There's like wet pant leg technology. Watch this.
That's freaking great.
Watch this. Sorry, just to illustrate. Look, my pant legs are wet.
Nice. Now that's historically accurate.
Yeah, oh, that's true. What war game does that?
Well, probably all of them.
There could be a movement modifier for going through a river, for difficult terrain. Like right now, I have a negative modifier to my movement. You are moving unhindered. It would take me more points to move into the next hex than you.
That's important, right? If you're trying to simulate historical effects, because that's why Hannibal crossed the Alps and all that kind of thing.
Do you know that most days, if you were to tell someone about Hannibal crossing the Alps, they would think you're talking about Hannibal Lecter? Yeah,
that's probably true. Which is a shame, because Hannibal from Carthage will be around a lot longer. Wait, around a lot longer? No, wait. I don't know how to put that. Anyway.
But wait, why do you say Carthage doesn't even exist anymore?
I know, but we still well, I mean, those are things that shape the world as we know it, and I think that a lot of those things are important. I think that
you go in front.
We can, I think there's nothing that I've seen that is no book that I've read that's as...
You go in front, by the way. I was just trying to get you in front.
I wasn't sure what you were doing. Okay, there we go. I'll just walk here. Look at this thing. Oh, this would be a perfect... This would be a concealment. You'd get concealment bonus from this.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, but it's in a tactical game. But, yeah, I mean, I think that, I've never really read a book or a documentary about, or watched a documentary about the French war in Indochina until or that was as good as the game I played about it, which sort of, showed me a whole bunch of illustrated for me problems that I never really, I couldn't envision. Sort of, it was just very abstract to me, and then all of a sudden, I played a game and I thought, gosh, this is working out exactly the way that the books that I've read describe it, but I can see it more sort of, it's more tangible to me now that I'm actually moving those units and seeing that the problems that the French had.
It reminds me of reading like Keegan's, what's that famous Keegan book about being a soldier in different wars? Shoot a monkey.
There's Face of Battle.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But it's a different way of kind of experiencing like these crucial moments in history.
Yeah.
Now, so I am curious though, what Call of Duty, for instance, that's a war game. There are wars in civilizations. Civilization, therefore, Civilization 6, that's a war game, right?
Well, I mean, I think that between a war game and a strategy game is that a war game is a historical strategy game with procedural generation and permadeath.
That's a roguelike. Nice try.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we'll try again. Well, sure. I mean, war games aren't necessarily games about war, or they can be, but I don't think that's the way that people are really trying to use the term.
That's a less useful use of the term,
yes.
Right? What is a more useful use of the term? Like, how would you define what a war game is?
I would say a war game is a game which attempts to recreate historical conditions in a way that that two players or however many players play the game will find themselves making the same decisions and have the same kind of dilemmas that the historical participants made or came up against, and that played historically, they will come to a similar result.
So does it necessarily need hexes or chits?
Oh gosh, no. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. I mean, I don't think you can. I don't think you can ever sort of restrict war games to things like that. I mean, once upon a time, in the 80s, the wargaming community was very, very sort of biased against...
about like what makes a war game? Like you need hexes?
Oh yeah, if it didn't have hexes, it just wasn't considered serious. And
well, I can see, I mean, because that, like, people who don't play war games may not know, but the way that you move on terrain with tiles, with squares, is way different than hexes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm keenly aware when I'm playing a game with hexes, like the whole issue of, wait a minute, diagonal movement needs to be priced differently.
Right. Well, that's true, but I mean, there are other ways. I mean, you don't have to turn a grid. The grid doesn't just have to be hexes or squares. Right. It can be irregular shapes.
Yeah,
it can be areas that are delineated for functional purpose.
Battle of the Bulge, for instance, for the iPad.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Go ahead.
Some war games, and this is kind of surprising, I think, to modern board gamers, don't even have dice. There's no like randomness involved. You just move the units around. You compare values on a combat results table. You're not necessarily rolling dice. Well, I guess. Wait, doesn't a CRT require dice? Did I just make that up, Garrick? Are there war games that don't require dice?
Well, there are war games that have other kinds of combat resolution. I mean, there are actually some war games that don't require dice at all. There's a very interesting Napoleonic simulation by Bowen Simmons or several simulations by Bowen Simmons that don't require dice. But in general, they require some kind of random element, whether it be dice or cards. Cards can be used to sort of randomize results, or they can be played for different purposes. But in most war games, I think have dice in.
I guess you do need to simulate the sort of the chaos of war somehow.
Yeah, there's some kind of uncertainty where you can't really tell. The ones that don't have dice, like the Bowen Simmons games I was talking about, the units themselves, their values are hidden. So you don't have dice, but then all of a sudden you come up against a unit and you have to compare your units.
Fog of war.
Fog of war. Exactly, the fog of war. No plan survives contact with the enemies.
Who said that? Von Clausewitz.
Um, Either George Patton or Patton Oswald.
Oh, they're constantly confused, aren't they?
Yeah, I get confused all the time.
I want to ask you about a couple specific war games and whether or not you've
Sure.
played them.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one of them.
Okay.
Instructions for the representation of tactical maneuvers under the guise of a war game. Have you played that?
That's some kind of Frenchy kind of
Oh, you're close.
18th century.
Oh, you're very close.
Just decree by some foo-foo aristocrat.
You got very close, Garrick. It's a Prussian training manual from 1812 that
the
involved. Exactly, and that's the final word, war game, in the name is Kriegspiel, and it was what we would call a war game. It had dice. It had it had like actual physical furniture, like desks that you were supposed to play it on, and you needed a game master to resolve moves, and it took forever.
Yep.
But it was to train their officers. It was a training thing. So you've never played that, though?
Not except when I was a Prussian officer in the 19th.
In a former lifetime, right? When
Right,
Shirley
right.
MacLaine told you that's what you were in a former lifetime.
Yes.
Here's another war game I want to ask you if you've played. Little Wars, a game for boys from 12 years of age to 150, and for that more intelligent sort of girl who likes boys' games and books.
My goodness.
Yeah, have you played that war game?
No, I wasn't around at the time of H.G. Wells, so I wouldn't be able to play that game. But no,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that. That's that just shows you that war games aren't some newfangled thing like like roguelikes or first person shooters. I mean they have a long pedigree.
Right. Yeah. Do you know about this H.G. Wells one? Have you read about what it was actually like?
I don't think I've ever investigated it far enough to find out what actually happens in the game now.
It's basically something that he and I forget who, like a friend of his, came up with while they were just messing around with one of their children's toy soldiers. And they just decided to write rules for about how you would knock over someone else's toy soldier. There were timed turns. So this is in real time. It had what we would call today like flicking, where you're trying to like move a piece like with your finger and stuff. Like it sounded terrible. I would never want to play this thing.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like paper football. But
yeah, exactly, and it's sexist to boot. That whole bit about girls.
Oh yeah, I can't believe it. That was just That's, I guess it was the times that this locker room talk. But the war games were used pretty extensively. The Japanese actually famously war gamed Midway, Battle of Midway, and got the result.
See how that worked out for them.
Yeah. Well, the first time that they war gamed it, they actually got the historical result. And
let's come up here, by the way, and sit by this waterfall.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first time they should have known, so they war gamed it. They thought, oh, we're gonna lose a bunch of carriers. We shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and then the judge basically, it was we call it judge, I guess, the game master, but I've heard him referred to in histories as the judge of the game. He decided that he refloated two of the carriers and made some adjustments and basically said this didn't happen and reversed a few things, and the Japanese won. But very poor choice to not follow the dice, as it were.
What do you know about whether or not war games or what kinds of war games are used in the modern military?
Well, there are a lot. Wargaming is actually a big thing. The people like, oh my god,
what was that?
I was wasted.
You just died. How did you just die? I just got a message. You died. What? Did you walk into a minefield or something?
I think so. I must have tripped a claymore.
What was that?
I must have been talking too much about stuff that the government doesn't want us to talk about war games.
I heard an explosion, and then it said you were dead.
And a thing came across my screen that said, "Wasted."
Did someone kill you, or did you fall? I'm mystified here, Garrick. What happened?
I think somebody shot me.
Is there a replay feature in this war game?
No. Apparently, this is permadeath.
Come on, get over here and next level this.
I just got a call from one of the... I don't know what's going on, Garrick, but you just got killed, and Grand Theft Auto just crashed. You got killed so hard
Yep.
that you crashed Grand Theft Auto.
Yes. Yeah,
What?
I had to quit out of the game and restart it. It said that game has stopped working.
Huh. I guess what it's telling us is we should go play a war game.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah,
All right. Well, in closing, what war games should we play? Recommend to listeners what are the best war games in all the world?
Well, the best war games in all the world are board games, so you're going to be kind of out of luck with those if you want. But if you want to play on a computer, there are a couple good games. The aforementioned that you had mentioned, Battle of the Bulge, was a great game. It's been kind of ruined by what. Not ruined, but it got kind of a perfunctory port that had a lot of problems. I think some of those problems are fixed, but there's a great game called Unity of Command.
I've heard about that one. Yeah, it's got cute little bobbleheads. It's for children, right?
That kind of eases you into the idea of having military units. The AI is very good, and the game really does introduce you to the concept of combined arms, combat results tables, that CRT, odds, things like that, terrain modifiers, all supply. It's all about, the game's actually all about supply, which you can argue that amateurs discuss tactics, professionals discuss logistics.
And an army marches on its stomach.
That's right. So I would play that.
All right, well, Garrick, you are the wargaming expert here of the people who are doing this video. You are definitely the one to listen to when it comes to war games, I will say.
Okay, I'll take that as a compliment.
Good. So, all right, let's go investigate let's have some sort of a debrief here. Let's find out what went wrong with this mission and how, we basically stumbled into our own midway here. We're like Japan stumbling into midway. Let's debrief ourselves and figure out what the heck happened.
Yeah, I think it was an ambush. Got to go look for Charlie.
Conversations at some point, just maybe with that in mind. And, oh my God, Garrick!
What?
This is not a boat.
Doesn't it go somewhere?
No, it doesn't now. Oh, geez, you just chappaquiddicked me.